Hi folks, thanks for joining me again for your Pandemic Toolkit, the series we're doing zeroing in on COVID-19 and what we can do to prevent and treat COVID-19 during what we're being told is an upcoming dark winter. Fortunately, we have a lot in our toolkit, and today we're going to take a look at nutritional support. You're looking at the prevention section for COVID. And I love this quote from Chinese medicine. The man who waits until he is sick to think about his health is like the man who waits until his house is on fire to dig a well. Herbal medicine is based on something we call the therapeutic order. And for those of you who may be new to this, I'm going to go to the search box and look that up. Therapeutic order. And we have tabs. I'm going to click on this tab and just open up the information panel all the way by clicking this little arrow. This is a PDF we have. Here we see a diagram that explains it. So this is kind of the approach that we take when we're looking at treating any condition. We have to first establish the foundation for optimal health, stimulate self-healing mechanisms, then support and restore a weakened system, then address physical ailments, next go to symptom control, then symptom relief, and then high-yield interventions, which could be called heroic interventions. Since making improvements in our lifestyle, such things as diet, exercise, clean air, clean water, stress reduction, sleep, etc., is critical for prevention of COVID-19, that's where we're going to start, and we're going to zero in on the section dealing with nutritional support. I'm clicking on this link, nutritional support treatment for COVID, because whether you're preventing or treating it, this is a very important foundational step. Now you'll see here on the right, the information panel, there are a few other areas to look at. The prevention section itself, and this one, food is medicine, I'm going to click on that. And in this area, you've just got tons of information, lots of videos. The power of food to heal everything from autoimmune disease to traumatic injury, the miracle of food-based medicine, how chefs can be doctors, nutrition basics. It goes on and on. These are all videos. And then we've got a number of studies down here. And then on the tab, you'll have additional videos that you can watch. So you'll be very well informed by going to this link. Fermented foods also turn out to be very helpful. So if you click on this link, it will take you to an area that explains how to make your own fermented foods, what they do for your health. You see recipes here for example, how to ferment beans and legumes, cheeses, mushrooms, etc. So let's go back and get started with looking at nutritional support to help with lung inflammation. These nutrients have been shown to support lung function and reduce lung inflammation. N-acetylcysteine, zinc, vitamin C, quercetin, nettles, and vitamin A. Each of these deserves its own video, so be sure and subscribe to the channel and click the little icon for notifications, because I will be giving you a video on each of these in detail. N-acetylcysteine is mucolytic. It's going to help to reduce the buildup of mucus in the lungs. Zinc has a lot of functions, and unfortunately, zinc deficiency is rather common. Zinc does play an important role in the immune system, and we've learned that it also is very specifically antiviral towards the SARS-CoV-2 virus if it can get into the cell. Zinc doesn't easily enter the cell, and for that we need something called an ionophore, which is kind of like a little doorway in the cell that will open for zinc, but it has to be opened, and quercetin will do that job, so that's one of the reasons we add quercetin into this. Vitamin C, of course, powerful antioxidant. Nettles is something that has been known for a long time to reduce hypersensitivity reactions in the lung. And then we've also got vitamin A. To prevent COVID, we want to follow an anti-inflammatory diet as much as possible. That includes not only what foods we eat, but especially what foods we avoid. For example, we're going to avoid sugar, especially if we do become ill, because sugar really messes up the immune system. It's very inflammatory. And to make matters worse, a lot of patients crave sweets. It seems like that's all they can actually taste. The sense of taste is seriously diminished, and eating anything becomes real drudgery. According to the terminology of herbal energetics, when a patient seems to demonstrate an internal chill, we want to avoid using cold herbs and cold foods. If you don't know which herbs are cold, and that's a quality of herbs described in herbal energetics, you could use the search box to look up cold. If we close the info panel to see more of the herbs, all of these herbs are known to have the cold quality. Energetics is one of the core therapeutic principles behind traditional herbal medicine, Eastern and Westerns. If you come to this section of the database, you can drill down into it. And one of the reasons we find it so helpful is because it helps us to match the right herb, the right food, to a person's individual constitution and condition. For both prevention and treatment, this is a great time for souping, especially the winter time. Those who are sick with COVID find it very difficult to eat, but they need hydration, they need nutrient-dense foods, and that's where souping can be a real help. Plus, you can keep it in a crock pot and have something warm to sip on all day that's going to provide those important nutrients. Souping has been called the new juicing. Let's go take a look at it. It's about incorporating nutrient-dense and high-fiber soups into our lives on a regular basis. It provides fiber and volume, hydration, and a delivery system for foods which are typically easier to process or digest than raw foods. And we have some studies here that show their effects that are pertinent to COVID. For example, the Mediterranean vegetable soup increases plasma vitamin C. Consumption of a high pressurized vegetable soup also increases plasma vitamin C, decreases oxidative stress and inflammatory biomarkers in healthy people. Soup consumption associated with a lower dietary energy density and better diet quality in U.S. adults. Fruit and vegetable soups contributed to increasing the concentration of each carotenoid by more than 100% after 3 and 4 weeks of consumption. We can just go right over here to soups and stews for some recipes to keep it interesting. Plenty to choose from, as you see. Going back to our main heading of nutritional support, let's also look at some of the herbs that you can toss into your herb broth that are particularly helpful. For example, nettle, onion, garlic, shiitake, Codinopsis, astragalus, thyme, oregano, and you can use that broth to saute vegetables. Reishi by itself makes a great tasting broth. Next, let's look at interleukin 6 and NRF2. Interleukin 6 is a cytokine that's used as a biomarker for the dangerous cytokine storm in severely ill patients. It can climb around day 10, indicating a serious downturn, and drugs like hydroxychloroquine are used to lower interleukin 6. But we do have a biological pathway called NRF2 that's meant to lower it naturally. We can look at NRF2 activators for natural agents that activate this pathway. Here are 3 simple ways to increase NRF2 activity. Consider the best of the Mediterranean or Okinawan diets. Exercise regularly. Eat organic. Organic produce may offer more NRF2 boosting benefits than regular produce. Here are some foods that promote NRF2. Grapefruit, apricots, watermelon, cruciferous vegetables, alliums like garlic, leeks, onions, chives, and shallots, carrots for their lycopene, and tomatoes, cooked tomatoes, because that provides us with more lycopene. Astragaloside 4, that comes from astragalus, which you could put in your broth, and ferulic acid. Berries, cape, CoQ10, coffee, believe it or not. And here's some studies about how coffee can modulate the NRF2 Turmeric and curcumin, you can add that to your soups. Ginger, of course. It does a lot for us, and it's great in soups. Dim, which would be a supplement. Ginkgo, green tea, especially the EGCG, which stands for epigallocatechin gallate. Here's some studies about what it does. Licorice, milk thistle, sulforaphane, moringa, resveratrol, wolfberry, also known as goji, and zymogen. Now, if you don't know what some of these things are, for example, you might go, what in the heck is CAPE? If you look down underneath, you see they're attached, and we could click on CAPE and find where we get it from. That would be from propolis and Chinese cinnamon. Let's look at another one, ferulic acid, for example. Where do we find ferulic acid? Here we've got it in peanuts, brown rice, artichoke leaf, apples, dong quai, oatberry. And I'm going to click on this scroll bar that popped up. It's in pineapple and rice bran. Nutritional support also includes getting enough protein. It's the basic building block of antibodies. And if you work out on a regular basis, you may need to increase your intake. We need approximately 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And one of the reasons why the elderly are more susceptible to infection is because they tend to have low stomach acid. That prevents breakdown of proteins into the required amino acids. Also, one of the functions of stomach acid is to suppress or kill potential pathogens. So, if there's not enough, infectious pathogens readily escape into the body. One of the reasons antacids suppress the immune function is because they suppress protein digestion and absorption. So watch out if you are on proton pump inhibitors or antacids. You may not be getting these viral fighting amino acids from your protein, and you may need to take them as a supplement. So this brings us back to NAC, which we mentioned earlier in how to reduce lung inflammation and support the lungs, N-acetylcysteine. It's a derivative of the amino acid L-cysteine. It helps reduce viral replication, but note, it's not going to prevent a viral infection. If someone does get sick, it helps reduce the symptoms, the length of time of the illness, and reduces recurring illness. When somebody has an active viral infection, they're burning about 6,000 milligrams of NAC, which is more than what the body can produce. The dose is 1,200 to 2,000 milligrams a day for prevention. A more aggressive dose, if you think you're coming down with something, is 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day. If you were severely ill in a hospital with nutritional awareness, they might give NAC through an IV at a dose of 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. That translates to about 8 grams orally. So a high dose for the very ill is 6,000 plus. Some people get nauseated at such high doses, and the option then is to increase it slowly according to tolerance. And then if you want to look at some studies about this, we see that it's being viewed as a potential therapeutic agent in COVID-19 infection. Here's the rationale for using it for both prevention and as an adjuvant therapy. Next, we've got L-glutamine. That is the primary fuel for lymphocytes. Those are what make antibodies. And when people are sick, they burn through a lot of it. Now, NAC helps to preserve glutamine and vice versa. The dose to support lymphocyte function is between 2 to 5 grams a day. You start with a low dose and work your way up. Too much, too soon can pour water into the bowel and create a loose bowel or diarrhea. When you're taking NAC or L-glutamine, don't take it with a lot of protein because there will be competition. Methionine is another one of the important amino acids. Spices are an important part of our nutritional support for a number of reasons. Here we see a study where they look to see if spice molecules could be inhibitors of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. They were looking at how they could be used to block viral replication by inhibiting the receptor binding domain of the viral spike protein and the viral main protease. Protease inhibitors are some of the drugs that are being used for SARS-CoV-2. All 30 spice molecules that they tested were indeed inhibitors of these areas of the virus. The one that came out on top, though, was piperine. And before I click on that to show it to you, I just want to say that when it comes to these studies that are done in a lab or even by computer, one of the difficulties is that when we take something orally into our bodies, we don't know for sure that it's going to actually come in contact with the virus itself to perform this action. However, piperine, if it does come in contact with the virus, could block it. So let's just click on that, see where we find it, and some of the other functions it serves that could be helpful. So here we see it's in black pepper. All right, so black pepper in that soup may be a good idea. Here are some of the things that it does. It's an antioxidant, helps with cancer, it helps with cardiovascular problems, diabetes. And let's just click on black peppercorn. Black peppercorn is powerful medicine. It's very pungent. That's one of the terms we use in herbal energetics for spicy foods. Here we show what it does in terms of Chinese medicine and Western medicine. There's some studies, preparation and dose, and also, importantly, you always want to look at the cautions. Let's click on that. Black peppercorn should not be used in any condition presenting heat or inflammation. Now, just using it as a seasoning in your food is okay. We're talking about a therapeutic dose here. What this suggests is you want to go easy on it when COVID-19 is kicking in with inflammation. Probably the time to use it therapeutically is as a preventative. And then there's one more study you can look at, secondary metabolites from spice and herbs as potential multi-target inhibitors of SARS-CoV-2 proteins. Now let's move down to this dietary guide. All right, this is making it a little bit simpler as far as your supplies that you're gathering for potential lockdowns. Maintain a 2 to 3 week supply of nutrient-dense, non-perishable food. That's thumbs up. Thumbs down, don't stockpile more than you need. Unprocessed is best. Thumbs up, incorporate fresh, pesticide-free vegetables, legumes, herbs, spices in meals when possible, along with whole grains, mushroom varieties, nuts, seeds, and fermented foods. Steer clear of synthetic food additives and processed starches such as refined sugar, candy, soda, sweetened drinks, and refined carbohydrates like white bread. Hydrate. Water is life. At least 8 cups a day without ice. Warm is better. Unsweetened tea and broth are your friends. Avoid excess alcohol and caffeine. Nutrient sources. Look for food sources of zinc, such as hemp seeds and pumpkin seeds, and vitamin C, raw red peppers, oranges, steamed broccoli, and vitamin D. Here it says tuna fish, but I say no to tuna fish because it contains too much mercury. Egg yolks, though, would be good, and, well, fortified cereal is questionable. There are toxic upper limits of vitamins and minerals, so don't overdo it, but the database is going to walk you through all that. Source supplements with discernment, yes, and in the database we have an area under food supplements that tells you where to get the best ones. Supplemental defense doses, zinc 13 to 23 milligrams of zinc gluconate or acetate every 2 hours, limit to 7 to 14 days. Now that's if you're getting sick. Excess zinc inhibits the absorption of copper. In the zinc section that we'll cover later, we'll get into that more detail. Vitamin C, 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day in the form of calcium or sodium ascorbate. Vitamin C absorption requires proper iron stores. Vitamin D, the optimal dosage, we'll get into later in this dose that is recommended 800 to 1,200 IUs a day is actually too low. More on that later. And then some more studies on foods and nutrients for COVID. Let's move on to citrus fruits and hesperidin. Among the many approaches to coronavirus disease prevention, the possible role of nutrition has so far been rather underestimated. Foods are very rich in substances with a potential beneficial effect on health, and some of these could have an antiviral action or be important in modulating the immune system and defending cells from the oxidative stress associated with infection. This short review draws attention on some components of citrus fruits, especially the orange, well known for its vitamin and flavonoid content. Among the flavonoids, hesperidin has recently attracted the attention of researchers because it binds to the key proteins of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Let's take a look at hesperidin. We see here it can be found in peppermint, blood orange, citrus genus in general, and the linden flower. There are a number of studies here that talk about what it does, but I'm going to click on the tab and play part of this video for you on how it may be essential for prophylaxis and treatment of COVID-19 infection.
The main ways that we're told to slow the spread of the coronavirus infection are to wear a mask, wash our hands, and socially distance. But what about diet? It's almost never talked about. So today I'm going to talk about a paper that proposed the idea that is hesperidin a metabolite that's found in peppermint leaves, lemon, orange, including navels and blood oranges. Is that metabolite essential for prophylaxis, in other words, prevention and treatment of the COVID-19 infection? So let's have a look at what they propose. So there are three main ways that they propose that hesperidin may prevent and or treat the coronavirus infection. So first, when looking at the coronavirus itself and its structure, coronavirus spike proteins bind to the ACE2 receptor, allowing it to enter cells, where it then tricks our cells to make more of itself, leading to immune activation and an excessive pro-inflammatory response. Now, in a virtual screening study, it was shown that hesperidin was a very strong inhibitor of this process. So essentially preventing the SARS-CoV-2 virus to enter cells. So that would be the first way that it could prevent and or treat coronavirus infection. Now, in the second way, this is an in vitro study, meaning it was done in cells, where hesperidin has been shown to upregulate the interferon MAP kinase pathway, which is involved in increasing cell immunity against infection. In this case, the infection was influenza A virus. Now, studies looking at the ability of hesperidin to upregulate this pathway to improve our immune system's response to the SARS-CoV-2 virus have not yet been performed. But there is data in the COVID-19 disease that the MAP kinase pathway is an important pathway for in people who have survived the infection. So, and then third, the cytokine storm, in other words, an immune overreaction to the infection is widely known, and included amongst those pro-inflammatory molecules are interleukin 1 beta and interleukins 2 and 6, interferon gamma, and TNF alpha. Now, hesperidin, in a variety of studies that were not looking at the ability of hesperidin to inhibit these pro-inflammatory molecules in the COVID-19 situation, but in other studies, hesperidin has been shown to inhibit each of these inflammatory metabolites, which would suggest that it would also work in the COVID-19 situation. Now, I should say, no randomized controlled trials, no RCTs have yet looked at the ability of hesperidin to actually do these things in the COVID-19 situation. But based on the data that they present in the paper for each of these pathways, it may be a good option. So where can we get hesperidin from? So as I mentioned, it's found in relatively high concentrations in lemons, oranges, and peppermint. So to look up that data, I went to phenolexplore.eu, and if you want to look up that data yourself, I took a screenshot so you could see the data. And just looking at the pure juice, not necessarily from concentrate, I'd want to go with whole foods and not supplements, or not, the concentrate from the food. I'd want to eat the whole food to get it from the whole food. So when looking at it like that, we can see that lemon juice, navel oranges, otherwise known as blonde oranges, and blood oranges have pretty decent amounts of hesperidin. Now, the highest amounts of hesperidin on this list are found in dried peppermint. Now, this is a bit misleading because nobody's going to go and eat 100 grams of dried peppermint, which is what this value, 481 milligrams per 100 grams of dried peppermint leaves. But 1 gram of dried peppermint translates into about 4 grams of fresh peppermint. So you can then divide this 481 by 4, so you get about 120 milligrams of hesperidin per 100 grams of fresh peppermint leaves. And I've actually been taking about 70 grams of peppermint and putting it in smoothies and blending it with other stuff to try to get more hesperidin into my diet. So that's all I've got. There are lots of ways to find me online, all of them listed here.
Well, I think we'll stop here because we still have a lot more to cover going into the vitamins and food supplements, and I think it's better if we have a part two so we can really dig into all of that. Thanks again, you guys, for watching and for sharing this, and I wish you all the very best as winter comes on. We can get the upper hand here, so just hang in there. If you have questions or comments, use the comment section. And yes, subscribe to the Ultimate Herbal Database and to the channel. If you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, be sure and do that as well. Love you guys. Bye-bye.